Your Los Angeles Dodgers are 2024 World Series champions. We freaking did it. The title is ours. Your Los Angeles Dodgers are taking home the 2024 World Series championship. They got it done in 5 games against the New York Yankees, and Game 5 felt like the most improbable comeback of my entire life. Kevin Klein speaking here on the Incline Dodgers podcast, and I am joined with Jake Reiner. As always, me and Jake got to celebrate 2020, and we're celebrating 2024 now. Jake, how you feeling?
Oh, Kevin, I've got one thing to say. Ah! We did it! Finally, a full season World Series title up your ass. I don't know what the haters can say now. They can all go to hell. We beat the Padres. We beat the Mets. We beat the Yankees. A tough path to a World Series title. We are champions once again. Number 8, we get our parade. This is fucking phenomenal. And I am on cloud 9. This is the most elated I've ever been. So this was honestly, this game 5 was kind of insane because what happened to the Yankees? Like, what happened? I'm sitting there with 2 perspectives on my mind. One, finally seeing my team do well in the postseason, but then looking at the Yankees and thinking, we've been there as fans. We've been there watching an epic meltdown collapse like that. But I don't think I've ever seen a Dodgers team do what the Yankees did tonight. I don't think I've ever seen that. That 5th inning where Garrett Cole gives up 5 runs, but none of them are earned because they can't catch the ball. Cole doesn't cover first base. Volpe bounces a throw to third. I mean, it was insane what happened in that inning. A meltdown of epic proportions. You let a good team like the Dodgers back into a game, and you sealed your fate. And to celebrate on their field, 43 years since the last time they celebrated at Yankee Stadium. Just an amazing, fucking phenomenal night.
Popping the champagne right now. Oh, come on. There we go.
There we go.
Pouring it out, baby. World Series champions. Just like Craig is saying, 8 championships in the year 2024. So many Kobe parallels. The walk-off grand slam, score 6-3. Fernando passed away, I believe, at the age of 63. 2024 was the fucking Dodgers year. It felt like we were the number 1 contender. And finally, I know we did it in 2020, but finally we do it once again. We are back on top. 2 World Series in I guess a 5-year or 4-year span. Let's freaking go. Everyone hit that like button. Let's celebrate tonight. About to pour a glass. I have never felt more stressed in my entire life than tonight's game. And that's saying something because the Dodgers were up 3-1 still, but I didn't want a Game 6 and I didn't want a Game 7. My heart was racing. Again, this was the most stressed I've ever felt in an entire playoff game. And what happened in the 5th inning was an out-of-body experience. And this just shows...
I can't even wrap my head around what the hell happened.
This just shows, like Dave Roberts alluded to and mentioned a few times, toughest team, according to him, that he's ever managed. And these guys just have that fight. So we'll kind of recap and go throughout the game and the series, talk about our favorite moments. But we're celebrating right now. Freddie Freeman, World Series MVP. Not that there was any doubt about it. Homered in 4 consecutive World Series games in this season. 6 overall. That's a record. And, of course, Freddie Freeman. You want to talk about momentum. That walk-off grand slam might have changed the entire scope of this series. Never have I seen a bigger walk-off grand slam in my life. It's only second to Kirk Gibson, which we weren't alive to see. But in our lifetimes, this was the biggest home run, no doubt about it. And it goes to Freddie Freeman. Couldn't think of a Dodgers player that earned it more.
Just the journey that guy's had all season, right? His kid. He had to deal with his kid who was having a medical emergency and had to step away. Then he fucks up his ankle and he can't play on his ankle. He had a broken finger, for Christ's sake. He played through so much and was hobbling through the DS and the NLCS. Then remember we said, Kevin, they rested him in game 6 of the NLCS. he was able to get almost an entire week off of that ankle, getting treatment and all that, then shows up in the World Series and basically is the Freddie Freeman of old and owns the Yankees in this World Series, owns them. Easiest path to an MVP ever. Couldn't be a clear-cut winner of that. But I agree. That grand slam probably won them the series. Just like Kirk Gibson's home run in game 1 of the 88 World Series pretty much won them that World Series too. Because in both situations, the Dodgers were losing and they end up winning that game. The other big moment of this postseason has to be that Shohei home run in game 1 of the NLDS, the 3-run home run. That changed the trajectory, I think, of the entire postseason for the Dodgers. Because if that doesn't happen, they lose to the Padres. Who the hell knows? We could have been staring at another sweep. But just like you said, Kevin, this team has the most fight I've ever seen in any Dodgers team, probably since 2020, but maybe ever. These guys scratched and clawed, and you never thought that it didn't matter how many runs they were down, that they could come back and win any game. And the fact that there's been no team prior to the Dodgers to come back from a 5-0 deficit or a 5-run deficit and win a clinching game of the World Series just shows you how just persistent this team is and how they never give up. As a fan, that is the greatest gift you can have as watching a team.
I'm in awe. This was the happiest I've ever been from a series. They showed the most fight. This is I don't even know how to compare it. The 2020 comeback to the Atlanta Braves down 3-1 was pretty special, but this might have been even more special doing it in the World Series against the New York Yankees, the team that the media just gets on their knees for and kind of strokes, you know what I'm talking about. The A-Rods, the Derek Jeters, even some of these idiots like Jesse Rogers, which I talked about in my little pregame show. This Yankees fan base, I learned a lot about them, and this doesn't speak for the entirety of their fan base, but there are a number of guys that really showed their true colors, and there are some ugly Yankees fans, and karma's a bitch because I would not have wanted to see these assholes take home a championship. And then you got guys like Alex Verdugo, who continues to talk shit about the Dodgers, played down that fan incident involving Mookie Betts, has discounted the Dodgers 2020 World Series championship in the past because we all know he's bitter because the Dodgers traded him for Mookie Betts. And it's just sweet, sweet vengeance and karma that Alex Verdugo strikes out swinging to be the final out to clinch the 2024 World Series championship against Walker Buehler, which of course we got to talk about Walker Buehler whenever we're ready. But what an epic ending.
Epic ending. The fact that Shohei Ohtani joined the Dodgers immediately wins a World Series title. I mean, you couldn't script it better than that. I'm just so floored because Kev, like winning a World Series, of course, neither of us have ever done it, but watching enough baseball, winning a World Series is one of the toughest things to do. And it's one of those things where people like to complain about big budget teams, and the Dodgers are constantly in the, at the top of the payroll list when it comes to spending money on players. That honestly means that you can gather talent, right? And you can put a good team on the field, but that does not get you a World Series title. It just doesn't. The playoffs are such a crapshoot, especially in baseball. There is such an any given Sunday attitude to every single game that anything can happen. And the Dodgers have proved that because year in and year out, they've had teams capable of winning World Series and probably should have multiple World Series titles during this Andrew Friedman era, more than 2, I should say.
Yeah.
And the fact that they don't just gives you an idea of how fucking difficult it is. And the path that the Dodgers had to go through this year to win a title is one of the toughest paths I've ever seen. Because you go through the Padres, 5 games with the Padres, everybody was picking the Padres. And I think in terms of evenness or which team was the most comparable to the Dodgers, it was the Padres. That was probably the toughest series they had to go through. But then you get the Mets, who, again, every postseason, there's a team that just has it, right? They're just on fire. The Mets were that team. They go through them. Then they get the Yankees, the other best team in baseball in the American League, and defeat them. Incredible run. Incredible World Series run.
Yeah, you can't discount the fact that Dodgers went through a team led by Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr., pitching staff of Dylan Cease, Michael King. They had Tanner Scott, Suarez, Adam in the bullpen. They beat them in 5. Then they played the red-hot New York Mets, led by some people's MVP in Francisco Lindor. They beat him. They shut down Pete Alonso for the most part. They solved Mark Vientos, and then they've got the rest of the guys and the hot pitchers like Sean Manaea, Edwin Diaz. They beat all those guys. The Mets, they're eliminated after defeating the Phillies. Then you've got the New York Yankees, and it felt like so many people were just discrediting the Dodgers' path after we just mentioned those 2 teams they beat. You've got Cameron Maybin, who somehow thinks in his head that the Yankees had a much more difficult path because they beat the Kansas City Royals and the Cleveland Guardians. Well, then the Dodgers take care of the New York Yankees in 5. For the most part, they shut down Aaron Judge until he kind of went off in the very end. Giancarlo Stanton, couldn't really solve him, but it didn't end up mattering. And Juan Soto, for the most part, felt like a non-factor in this series. The only thing they really did with Juan Soto is they walked him too much. But Garrett Cole, they beat him in both games, and much respect to Garrett Cole. He pitched his ass off. He didn't deserve that loss. Honestly, he put the Yankees in a prime position to win this game, especially tonight, and his defense choked. You want to talk about momentum swings? That routine ball that Aaron Judge had flown his way in center field.
Oh, my God.
I don't know how he dropped that. That's embarrassing, and I hope he gets ripped to shreds by the media tomorrow because he doesn't deserve a pass for that.
Oh, he's getting ripped right now as we speak, Kevin. He is getting absolutely torn to bits. I mean, he's been maligned the entire postseason for his, output or lack thereof. So for him to boot a ball like that, hit right to him, you saw the replay. He wasn't even watching the ball into his glove. He wasn't even looking at the ball. That Volpe throw to third was terrible. And then, oh my God, the base is loaded and 2 outs, and you get Mookie Betts to kind of dribble one to the first baseman, Anthony Rizzo, and you don't cover the bag. So, I mean, yeah, Garrett Cole had 5 unearned runs, but that was on him. He needed to get that out. And if he gets that out, that's the game right there. I don't know that the Dodgers can come back from that, but the fact that they basically had a brain malfunction and could not get the out opened the door for the Dodgers. But huge hits from Freeman and Teoscar Hernandez. That can't go unnoticed. Just the clutch factor of this team and the fact that they scored 7 runs tonight without hitting a home run. That's crazy. I've never, you rarely ever see that with this team. That's not the blueprint of this team. So the fact that they were able to scratch and claw a bunch of great sac flies in there from Gavin Lux and Mookie Betts, just beautiful, beautiful baseball tonight from the Dodgers.
In the first 2 rounds of the postseason, Freddie Freeman only had 1 RBI. In the World Series, he had, I believe, 12 RBIs, which set a Dodgers franchise record for most runs batted in a World Series championship performance. Just a hats off performance by Freddie Freeman. That time off, like you mentioned, seemed to be very beneficial for the Dodgers. Got his ankle right. And the Yankees literally couldn't stop him. Never seen a beatdown more than what Freddie Freeman did against the New York Yankees. This even tops what Corey Seager did against the Atlanta Braves on their way in 2020. 4 home runs, 12 RBIs, clutch home runs, clutch base hits. Freddie Freeman was all over the field with his bat. And my goodness, the fact that the Dodgers did all that damage with, I believe, 2 outs with the Freeman and Hernandez runs was just massive.
Yeah, it was. And the other thought that I had was, when Jack Flaherty went out there and got shelled, which, God, that was horrible. What a horrible performance from him. Can only get 4 outs. But how many times in this postseason, Kevin, did the Dodgers just get absolutely gut punched in the early innings? And the majority of the time, they were able to come back from that, which is kind of crazy. They've had so many comeback wins in this postseason run.
And the fact that they were able to overcome their lack of starting pitching, because you didn't know on any given night what you were going to get. Each pitcher that we threw out there had their moments where they blew up, but they also had some great moments. I mean, Jack Flaherty, overall, if you look at his ERA, it's very high for the postseason, but he had a few decent outings in there. Yamamoto pitched big for this Dodgers team. And Buehler, I think we got to talk about Walker Buehler, because I mean, in terms of story arcs that are incredible this season, you got to look at Shohei Ohtani. You got to look at Freddie Freeman. Mookie Betts kind of exercised his postseason demons. But how about Walker Buehler? 2 Tommy John surgeries, comes back and is not good during the regular season. Arguably one of our worst pitchers in the regular season. But when it came down to it, they lost Glasnow. They were just hurting. He stepped it up the entire postseason and was a dog and was the Walker Buehler of old. I did not think he had it in him. I thought we may have lost the old Walker Buehler, having watched him during the regular season. I was very worried having him starting a postseason game. But watching him pitch this postseason, there was nobody else that I would have trusted in that spot, opening up the bullpen gates in the 9th inning to seal the World Series victory for the Dodgers and Walker Buehler. I mean, I just felt so much confidence with him on the mound to seal the deal and for us to win our 8th title.
Yeah, it was awesome. Like Anna Pineda saying, Butane, the Legacy Series. Walker Buehler has set himself up for a very nice payday this offseason. We'll speculate what happens with Walker Buehler as the offseason goes on. But like Jake was saying, he had the biggest redemption arc. He was absolutely sensational, especially in the NLCS against the Mets and then in this World Series. And looking at the entire Dodgers pitching staff of guys available, you can't really find a better candidate over Walker Buehler to be the guy to close it out, to clinch a World Series championship for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Thankfully, we can kind of erase the memories of Julio Urias closing out the 2020 World Series after he kind of ruined his legacy. Now we get Walker Buehler in one of the most epic fashions coming out of the bullpen. You know, Dave Roberts loves his narratives, and Walker Buehler shuts it down 1, 2, 3. I was an asshole to Buehler throughout the season, felt he was cooked. There were times where I was right, but ultimately Walker Buehler showed up in October, and that's something that I'm very high on. As long as you can pitch your ass off in October, I don't really care how you perform in the regular season as long as the Dodgers get there. And Buehler's earned it. His championship win probability added is just incredible. Guy is clutch in the postseason, and he's a dog out there. And I felt like, yeah, he was going to get the job done in the 9th. Never really had a doubt in my mind he would get into any trouble. And he just mowed down those Yankees. What a legend.
You know, something you brought up, Kevin, I don't know when it was, but you brought it up at some point where we were talking about Julio Urias and how, you know, he threw the final out during the 2020 title, which was, you know, a massive momentous moment. And you kind of made the point that, oh man, like that 2020 title just feels weird. And thinking about that being the lasting image of him getting the final out and then what happened with him, you know, off the field, just a horrific talk about, you know, arc, just an absolute nosedive of a life and career. But this Walker Buehler moment in the 9th inning at Yankee Stadium in the 2024 World Series, could you think of a better image to replace that one? I mean, it's pretty special.
100%. And so you mentioned Jack Flaherty being bad tonight. He only got 4 outs. He gave up 4 earned runs. It was clear he didn't have it, and it was good that Dave Roberts pulled him instantly. But I want to have Jack Flaherty's back because I saw a lot of people trashing him online, and I honestly just don't quite understand it. The Dodgers aren't in this position without Jack Flaherty to begin with. He was nails in game 1 of the NLCS. He threw like 7 scoreless innings, and then he was bad in his next outing. And then in game 1 of the World Series, he pitched his ass off once again and put the Dodgers in a position to walk it off and win. So yeah, he was dog shit tonight, but people went as far as to say he doesn't deserve a ring and he should never show his
Oh,
face in LA
please.
again. Like,
Please.
those people can fuck off. Like, Flaherty is a World Series champion. He is up there in terms of all the best trade deadline acquisitions that Andrew Freeman has ever acquired. And unlike Max Scherzer, he never quit on the team. And unlike you, Darvish, he didn't fail when the lights were bright. He still showed up in at least one World Series game. So Flaherty is still the best deadline starting pitching acquisition I've ever seen in my lifetime in the Freeman era. And so Flaherty has earned that championship, and they probably will let him go to another team in the offseason. And it's not because they think Flaherty isn't that guy. I think the Dodgers just have other plans in mind.
I agree. And I think that if you were to put things into context where, who else are you going to go with, Kevin? Who else are you going to put on the mound, really, if Flaherty is not the guy? We needed him, and he did come through. Like I mentioned, I mean, he did have some stellar performances during this postseason run. Yeah, he had a few stinkers or whatever, but the Dodgers knew this. They knew that it was going to be a crapshoot, whatever they got from their starting rotation. They knew that they were going to have scheduled bullpen games, which they had to do throughout the postseason. And we should talk about Dave Roberts in a minute because he deserves his flowers during all this. So it was just a crapshoot every night of how they were going to string together 27 outs. But they knew that they had the offense to counter that. And the offense, for once in the last three years, showed up in the postseason and carried this team. So to me, it's kind of ridiculous to say that Jack Flaherty doesn't deserve a ring. That's just nonsense, and nobody should pay it any mind.
Yeah. So thank you guys for tuning in. This is an awesome night. Your Dodgers are World Series champions. To celebrate the Dodgers being World Series champions, hit that like button. Share this episode with your friends right now. Get them in the chat. If you got questions for us, if you want to drop super chats, do all that. We'll get to some of your guys' questions. So you wanted to talk about Dave Roberts. Let's do it right now. So this entire postseason, Roberts managed his ass off, showed a lot of growth, and has no doubt definitely become a guy you can be more confident in. And this guy made so many adjustments, and he did it once again after his starter just didn't have it. 35 pitches, 4 outs, and Dave Roberts goes to the bullpen instantly. You had Anthony Banda pitch for a couple outs. Ryan Brazier, who gave up a run, he got 3 outs. And then he just went down the line. You see Kopech go 3 outs. Vesia goes an inning. Gratterall gets 2 outs. Blake Treinen gets 5 outs. And then he goes to Walker Buehler for the 3-out save.
Dave Roberts managed not a flawless postseason, but he pretty close to flawless. I mean, maybe this is a better way to say it. This was his best postseason, I think. Because even in 2020, he had some decisions that we got on him for where we were like, what the hell are you doing, dude? And the Dodgers kind of won despite him. I believe the Dodgers won because of him this time, because he believed in his guys. He made pretty much all the right pitching decisions, despite a few games where he punted, which I didn't necessarily agree with, because as a fan, you want to try to win every game in the postseason. Yeah. But Roberts knew that he needed a rested bullpen. He was basically using his bullpen like another starter because he had to. He only had 3 starters, and he couldn't really trust all 3 of them every time out because he had to go to the bullpen a lot of the time, like tonight. And it's not like he could punt another game in a row like he did the previous night, because Honeywell went a ton of pitches, Kasparius went a ton of pitches, Knack went a ton of pitches. There was just not, and Hudson was terrible. So you really didn't have any low leverage guys, but all the high leverage guys were rested. And so just keeping this deficit where it was, again, 5 runs is a lot, but not so much for this team, especially early. It wasn't too late in the game at that point. The fact that he used these high leverage relievers to keep the game where it was, allowed the Dodgers offense to ignite, which we know that they can do. And they were able to win because of that. And then there was that moment. Treinen got up to like almost 40 pitches. And Dave Roberts went out there in the 8th inning And it looked as though they were maybe going to take him out. Buehler was warming up at the time. And Roberts said that he looked in his eyes. He needed to look in his eyes. And Blake Treinen said he was good to go. And he left him in there. And boy, did he make his manager look good, because he got the next guy out and we were out of that inning. And that ended that threat right there. And the Yankees were completely neutralized, and it set the stage for Walker Buehler. Just an absolute masterclass managerial performance from Dave Roberts. I never thought I would be saying that, because when the Dodgers are down 2-1 to the Padres, I was saying maybe it's time to get rid of this guy because we're about to get fucking eliminated by the Padres again. But fuck me. I will eat my words on that. Dave has cemented himself as a legendary Dodgers manager. He's not going anywhere. They're going to bring him back. They're going to extend him, all that jazz, because he deserves it. He managed his goddamn ass off.
He sure did. And yeah, the moment you were referring to, he got Stanton to fly out. Then he struck out Anthony Rizzo, who just was clearly not healthy the entire World Series. Glad they were able to take advantage of that. Treinen made Anthony Rizzo look like a fool. And I'm ready to say it. We lost Treinen for a couple of years because of injuries, but he's now a part of 2 World Series championship teams for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Blake Treinen has to probably go down as maybe the greatest setup reliever in Dodgers franchise history. Like, I can't think of someone better than Blake Treinen, because this guy is money in the playoffs. He's absolutely sensational in the regular season. And it seems like no moment is ever too big for this guy. Yeah, he's going to have his hiccups, but every reliever does. When the going gets tough, Blake Treinen, like tonight, after not pitching for 2 years, they had to put him on the IL once or twice because of fatigue and all that. He got 5 outs tonight, multiple times in this postseason race. He pitched 30, if not 40 pitches in an outing and went multiple innings. And that just shows toughness right there.
Yes, it does. And Blake Treinen, I trust with my life. He is such an electric postseason performer. And it's interesting, 4 years apart from 2020, because he missed a few seasons in between. 4 years apart from 2020, he's just as dominant. And I thought Blake Treinen was unhittable in 2020. He's just as unhittable in 2024. And the way that they're able to use him, not just as a closer, but as an overall fireman, it's just an incredible job. And also, I mean, just to go back to Dave Roberts for a quick second, I think the fact that they let Blake Treinen go as long as he did just instills in your team that you're trying to win this game and you're trying to end the World Series tonight. The Dodgers came back in this game. They fought back in this game. And so with the way Dave managed tonight, I bet you the team fed off that and was like, oh, our manager's putting our best pitchers out there. We're going to try and win this game. And it motivates the players to focus on winning that game as opposed to, punting it like he did last night.
All right, so pretty good question from Los 17s, because it sets up a pretty good story for me. So he asks us, how were you guys feeling before that 5th inning? So obviously the Dodgers were down 5-0 at this point. I was feeling pretty angry. I felt like, well, I guess we got to get ready for fucking game 6, because this one seems like it's out of reach. And so what happens is we're at the top of the 5th inning, and I tell my wife, and I tell my puppy Clover, who some of you have seen when he was a newborn puppy or youngish puppy, who I showed on the camera a couple times. I tell Clover, I'm like, okay, I promise you after this inning, we'll go on a walk. Because at this point, I was feeling down. I was like, I'll just listen to it on the radio. I'm like, fuck this game. Like, fuck tonight. Dodgers probably lost this. Just some bullshit. And then let me just go through kind of what happened. So as we talked about, it's top of the 5th. Kiké singles. Then the Judge error happens with Tommy Edman. Then the Dodgers start to score. And so we go from me feeling pretty defeated, like we're going to game 6, god damn it, to the most elevated, excited. My heart was racing. I had never felt blood pressure like this. Heart was just beating out of its chest. When Teoscar Hernandez hit the tying double to tie it up 5-5 to score Betts and Freeman. I was louder in that moment than I was during the Freeman walk-off grand slam because I couldn't believe it. That just felt improbable to score 5 runs in the 5th inning.
I too thought we were dead in the water, and I was already thinking about game 6, and I was thinking like, oh God, they got the momentum. If they win game 6, fuck, we got game 7, and anything can happen in game 7. So you start to go down this dark rabbit hole. But man, oh man. And also the Dodgers loaded the bases. I thought they weren't going to come through. And then all of a sudden, Mookie Betts hits that little dribbler down the first baseline. And you're thinking, oh shit, here we go. And then I looked and I was like, there's nobody on the bag. There's nobody on the bag. You can't believe it. You can't believe it that he's going to be safe. And then that opened the floodgates. I mean, Freeman and Teoscar Hernandez, back-to-back doubles, just incredible stuff. Or no, Freeman had a single and Teoscar had the double. Just great.
Steven, my buddy, 2415 says, anyone know a decent place to stay in Houston? In parentheses, doubt that's possible. Booking my trip to show off my championship merch. Let's effing go. Do you think even Astros fans watch this World Series? I don't even think they know what was going on. If you're going to book a trip somewhere, you should go to San Diego and flex it there because those Padres fans felt like it was their year. There were so many whiny bitches online saying, this should have been our year. We had the Dodgers on the rope. We choked. We could have beat the Yankees in the World Series. Well, screw all them. You guys blew it. Honestly, the Dodgers should have beat the Padres in 4. This was kind of would have been a wipeout series if Miguel Rojas didn't butcher it in that one game. Padres choked. So I'm going to San Diego, get my Dodgers 2024 World Series merch. I'm going to walk around proudly next summer.
Absolutely. And it's just so funny to me that like they are whining about not being able to beat us when it's like, yeah, they may have had us on the ropes or whatever, but didn't they go scoreless for like 50 innings or something like that? I mean, they completely just died. So I don't know, man. You got to finish the job. And the Dodgers did. And even when the Padres beat the Dodgers back in 2022, Padres didn't finish the job. They didn't even get to the World Series. So figure it out.
It's 2 times now where the Dodgers defeat the Padres in the NLDS to successfully win a World Series. And the San Diego Padres have yet to still win a National League pennant in this current era, in rivalry era that's going on. Anna Pineda bringing up something that I was going to eventually talk about. I'm so glad Kershaw is a multiple World Series champion. So I'm floating out the narrative forever now that we're going to remember Kershaw's legacy as a multiple World Series champion. He should have had one for 2017. He absolutely dominated in 2020. And so even though he didn't technically pitch in 2024, I will forever call Clayton Kershaw a multi-World Series champion. And he's already confirmed he's coming back next season. So hopefully, potentially, the Dodgers repeat. And then Clayton Kershaw officially has 3. And he can say he tied Madison Bumgarner for World Series rings.
I mean, Clayton Kershaw bled, sweat, tears. I mean, just died for this team for the entirety of his career. I agree. Should have more titles than he does. His postseason stats are always looked at as, oh, he could never do it in the postseason. But just like we talked about with Jack Flaherty, if you look in some of the moments that Clayton Kershaw's had in the postseason, you'd say that those were pretty heroic too. And he had some great moments in the 2020 postseason that led to a title. So he is one of the most deserving Dodgers ever. The fact that he gets another ring is incredible. Love the fact that he's coming back. I hope to get to see him pitch. And I hope that he's healthy, but yeah, but honestly, I think with how unhealthy he was and how shaky he was when he tried to come back, I'm glad that he wasn't pitching in this postseason because the lack of starting pitching that we had already would have been compounded by him. And I'm just happy that he's going to hopefully fully recover and come back stronger next year.
Feel free to agree or disagree with me, but I've said it before, not on this show, but the fact that Clayton Kershaw got injured forced Dave Roberts to really adapt and adjust as a manager. And I think that injury really brought out the best in Dave Roberts, because the lazy and probably the wrong thing that could have happened is the Dodgers started Clayton Kershaw in game 4 of the NLDS down 2-1 against the San Diego Padres. And who knows what happens. But instead, Dave Roberts has to go with bullpen games. And in that game, for instance, it was a very successful bullpen game. It was part of the 24 consecutive scoreless innings against the San Diego Padres. There were some failure bullpen games where guys like Landon Knack and Daniel Hudson, who, breaking news on the incline, if you haven't heard, Daniel Hudson announced his retirement, so he won't be coming back, and he gets to go out on top. That was his mission. So even though he didn't pitch very great in the postseason, Daniel Hudson was an essential part of this regular season World Series title run. So he can wear his hat highly and say he helped this team win a championship after going through 2 knee surgeries. So good way for Daniel Hudson to go out on top.
He also went through Tommy John surgeries, multiple. So he's had a remarkable career and something that is going to be talked about forever. I mean, he's just such a resilient player. And so I'm very, very happy that he's going to get a ring. Because he did not pitch well, but he definitely deserves it.
So he retires. Kevin Kiermaier retires a champion. Then we were talking about Blake Treinen, but I believe he's a free agent. So I think we're going to both be on the same page here. Whatever Treinen's asking for, just pay him, and he's a must re-sign.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we do that. Joe Kelly, I believe, is a free agent. Wasn't a part of this postseason at all. Goodbye, Joe Kelly. Thank you for the memes. And we'll get someone else to replace Daniel Hudson. Free agency will be a fun time to talk about how to go back to back. But low 17s, pretty fair question. Still a ways to go. But does Freeman go into Hall of Fame as a Dodger now?
I mean, it's tough to argue, but he has an MVP and a World Series title with the Braves. So I think maybe if he gets another World Series title as a Dodger, I think that could change. But he's certainly one of the greatest Dodgers postseason legends of all time. I think that you can safely say that. The run that he had, and Kirk Gibson, for his moment in 1988, not taking anything away from him, but he pinch hit. He didn't play the whole game. Freeman was out there playing on a bum ankle that they would normally put him on the IL for 4 to 6 weeks. 4 to 6 weeks on the IL during the regular season. And this guy's out there hobbling around and still hitting the ball, and then has the World Series of a lifetime and literally carries this team to a title offensively.
So I could be wrong, but I still feel like Freddie Freeman, his heart's ultimately going to be in Atlanta. He'll go into the Hall of Fame as an Atlanta Brave, but we should send thank you cards to the Atlanta Braves because they let Freddie Freeman walk in free agency. He fell right into the Dodgers' lap. And now, since that decision, Freddie Freeman has a World Series championship with the Atlanta Braves, while the Atlanta Braves are yet to reach a World Series since departing with Freddie Freeman. And so the dilemma here, and I think it'll be a very interesting discussion and a decision in 10 years or so. If Freddie Freeman goes into the Hall of Fame as a Brave, he's a Hall of Famer. He won a World Series with the Dodgers. He won a World Series MVP with the Dodgers. He's going to be an all-star pretty much every year with the Dodgers. Do the Dodgers still have to retire his number 5?
I think that they're going to have to, if he gets into the Hall of Fame. I mean, certainly. I mean, he's going to be a Dodgers legend. He will be. And it'll be I think it'll be a tough decision for him to choose which hat he's going to choose on his Hall of Fame plaque.
The number 5 is loaded. There's a chance Corey Seager goes into the Hall of Fame. Freddie Freeman is basically a lock to make the Hall of Fame. And those are 2 great number 5s in recent memory to be a Los Angeles Dodger. Both World Series MVPs. So kind of special if you wear the number 5 and you're a left-handed hitter for the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Except if you're Hee-Seop Choi.
Okay, well, we don't need to bring that guy up. We are way past that era. But Frank McCourt made a nice buck, I guess. He was charging $75 for World Series parking.
Yeah.
BC, Freddy, 12 RBIs with the Statue of Liberty. That's right. Old liberal hippie. How important was Tommy Edman in October? Who saw that coming?
That's my argument when people try to say, oh, you guys buy championships and whatever, and like it's a big payroll and yada, yada. It's not that important. Well, what about Tommy Edman? This guy never played. This guy didn't play an entire game all season for the Cardinals, gets traded to the Dodgers, and they don't know what they have. And he becomes this postseason hero, NLCS MVP. He moves from center field to shortstop, does not skip a beat, and played pretty much an immaculate shortstop, right? I mean, just flawless shortstop did he play. I can't say enough about the guy. He was instrumental in winning us this title, and it just goes to show you that you do need the full team.
That one catch, that one catch, I guess, on the throw when he just got his toe on the bag to get that huge runner out at second base. I think that would have been in game 3 where he just got the toe on. Just a great reach from Tommy Edman. His defense overall was just exceptional, being able to get it done at shortstop and center field, the most two difficult positions to play. And Tommy Edman had a spectacular postseason as a hitter as well. He hit 328, 354 on base, 862 OPS, couple home runs, 13 RBIs, 5 stolen bases, scored 12 runs, and was the NLCS MVP, just like you mentioned. You can make the debate with Jack Flaherty and the pitchers, but amongst all the hitters, I don't think you can find a more impactful player than Tommy Edman that Andrew Freeman acquired around the trade deadline. He beats Trey Turner. He definitely beats a guy like Manny Machado. He beats that asshole Josh Reddick. Tommy Edman winning an NLCS MVP, in my book, is the most impactful trade deadline acquisition from a position player standpoint that Freeman has ever acquired.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't have nothing else to add. I mean, he was fucking awesome.
J Rent 20. With the Texas Rangers salary dumping, do they try to bring Corey Seager back? I don't think Corey Seager is going to be on the market, but I will say it wouldn't shock me if the Dodgers can somehow pull off a trade to get Jacob deGrom. But more on that in the offseason. But I wouldn't.
Jacob deGrom.
Yeah.
No.
Why not?
I don't want him. I don't want another pitcher that we can't trust in October because he's injured.
But if he's healthy, he's amongst the best.
I know. He said the same thing about Glass now. And where the hell was he?
New strategy. Sit these guys out till the second half and let them ride.
All right, fine.
But yes. Okay, well, that's it for questions right now. If you guys want to drop your questions and celebrate this World Series championship with us, hit that like button. Let's go. Dodgers, 2024 World Series champions. What else do we got to talk about, Jake? Because, I mean, there's a lot to cover in this title run.
What else do we have to cover? I think
I do want to talk about big turning points. So for you, You said Shohei Ohtani, game 1, hit the 3-run home run.
Yeah, in the NLDS.
That's probably number 3 in my book. My issue with putting a lot of emphasis on that being a turning point is the Dodgers tie it 3-3 against Dylan Cease. Then they cough up the lead again. Then they tie it. Then they go on to win. But then they drop the next 2 games. So for me, it's kind of hard to make that the turning point when you drop the next 2. Something in between game 3 and game 4, I think, is the entire turning point in the entire postseason. Whether you want to credit it when Teoscar Hernandez hits that grand slam and they still lose, but they hit the grand slam and they're within striking distance, or that next game when Mookie Betts takes Dylan Cease deep in the first inning, because at this point, Mookie Betts shows that he's going to get hot in this postseason, and the Padres were turning to their ace on 3 days rest, hoping he could seal this deal. They inevitably pounce Dylan Cease out, I think, by the third inning. Shohei Ohtani gets a 2-run or a double as well to score, make it 2-0. And then I think Betts ends up making it 3-0. Something along that part is where the Dodgers really turned the corner in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think the fact that Mike Schilt went to Dylan Cease on 3 days rest after the Dodgers had already torched him for 5 runs in game 1 was kind of odd, because I mean, I guess the thinking is, let's just close the Dodgers out right now and let's go with our best pitcher who's, probably going to win Cy Young. If it's not for Blake Snell. I mean, I think that they tried to end it right there, but that obviously was a huge turning point in the series. The bullpen game in an elimination game. Hello. Like, that was incredible. And the fact that the Dodgers shut the Padres out for 24 scoreless innings was massive. Yeah. I never thought in the Mets series that the Mets were going to be able to beat us 4 games, but they were the only team to take us to 6. So it's kind of remarkable when you think about people saying that the Yankees were better than the Mets. I mean, I think record-wise, sure, but the Mets had much more fight in them than the Yankees did. And it took forever for Aaron Judge to wake up. It took forever for Anthony Volpe and Austin Wells and Verdugo and all those guys to hit.
I get what you're saying to an extent, but I feel like even though it did go 6, while this one only went 5, in those wins, we absolutely blew out the Mets. Like, some of these games weren't even close. And this is where it kind of comes into the punt scenario. We definitely punted a game or 2 against the New York Mets. And on top of that, we just weren't as rested because we were coming off the NLDS in an excruciating 5-game series. So I think the Dodgers kind of had to pick and choose their spots, as opposed to the Yankee series. We got a few days off. We got to reshuffle the rotation. We got a fresh Flaherty in game 1, fresh Yamamoto in game 2, and a very fresh Walker Buehler, who was pitching on like 8 or 9 days rest in game 3. And those games, most of them really came down to the wire. So like, you'll look back on it and be like, yeah, Dodgers in 5. But if you look at tonight, we came back down 5-0. We were down to 2 outs in game 1, and Freeman hit a walk-off grand slam. Like, I'll show my respect to the Yankees. They could have had this series if they just executed correctly on a few scenarios.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I think the Yankees played themselves. And you give a team like the Dodgers extra outs, extra opportunities, you're going to get smoked. And the Dodgers came through and they were able to capitalize on those mistakes. So I agree with you to a certain extent. But I mean, just an incredible, Dodgers were the best team. And I think that finally the best team throughout the whole regular season, throughout the whole postseason, wins a title. We rarely see that.
Yep. Best record in baseball finally comes back out on top. Some more questions, and you guys continue to drop your questions. We'll answer anything you guys throw our way. I don't care how crazy you guys want to get. If you're drunk, drop your drunk questions. I'm drinking my champagne here. Nicholas Dugan, what's up? What's up, Nick? Chances we bring back Teoscar Hernandez. So I'll pass that over to you first to see what your thoughts are.
It's a must resign. It's a must. You have to. You just have to. What the guy said publicly about wanting to be a Dodger, about loving this organization. We talk about, Ohtani being one of the big reasons why the Dodgers won a World Series title, Freddie Freeman, obviously, and a number of other guys. But Teoscar Hernandez carried this team during the regular season. I mean, he was a stable force the entire time. He was healthy the whole year. He was in there every day, and he mashed. And then he continued to mash in the playoffs. Hit 250, had a 352 on base percentage, 770 OPS, 3 home runs, 12 RBIs, and he wins you a title. And he's hitting right in the middle of that lineup. And honestly, the Dodgers were probably hoping that Will Smith would be that guy in the middle of the order, or Max Muncy would be that guy in the middle of the order. But no, it was Teoscar Hernandez, because Will Smith had a terrible postseason. Max Muncy had a pretty good postseason up until the World Series, until he went hitless. And so the fact that you had a guy like Teoscar Hernandez to carry that middle of the order, you got to bring him back. You got to. That is why Ohtani deferred all that money in his contract so that the Dodgers could spend money in the offseason and pay these guys. Make him your corner outfielder of the future. Ride him out for the rest of his career. He needs to be on this Dodgers roster for years to come.
I could not agree more. He is a must re-sign. You mentioned the 12 RBIs, which that number alone is enough for me to offer him whatever he wants. In the NLDS, he had 1,000 OPS against the Padres with 7 RBIs. And you look at the batting average, it's a little lower than what you're accustomed to seeing, but it's about getting the hits when they matter. And Teoscar Hernandez throughout the postseason had a number of hits you can look back to and be like, that was his moment. He came through, and he's definitely a big reason they went on to win the World Series title, because Max Muncy was a no-show in this postseason. In this World Series round. Will Smith was pretty bad, but Teoscar Hernandez, when the Dodgers needed him, he had some very clutch hits. And if you got Teoscar Hernandez, who's asking for around $100 million, and you got Juan Soto, who's going to ask around probably $600 million, I'll take Teoscar Hernandez just on the contract and value alone. So for me, Teoscar is the priority. Re-sign him, bring him back. He's the piece you need. He was the piece we were lacking for years. A tough guy who comes up in the clutch. And finally, it's not David Peralta. It's not Joey Gallo. We finally got a good guy like Teoscar Hernandez in the middle of the lineup who you could count on to come through in the clutch. Los 17s. Are you guys going to the parade?
I want to. I've never been to a parade before, so I don't know what the best how to best tackle it, because it starts at 11 a.m. downtown. Parking's going to be a nightmare. Trying to figure out where the best place to stay or sit. People are going to be out there for hours getting their spots, so it's going to be a Herculean effort to do it. But I want to do it. And I know you're a brand new father, Kevin, so I don't know about your responsibilities.
I am all in. I am going
okay,
to the
good.
I am not missing this. Like you said, it is in downtown. I don't know exactly where in downtown it is yet. I imagine it's going to be somewhere near where Crypto.com arena is. At least in my head, I think that would make sense. But I think the map's out there, so we'll figure this shit out. I'm going to be there.
I actually can tell you, it begins at 11 a.m. At City Hall.
Okay.
So they're going Mayor Karen Bass will officially kick off the parade, which will then continue on a 45-minute route from 1st Street to Grand Avenue to 5th Street, culminating at the intersection of 5th and Flower.
Okay, so I got to figure this out. I'm planning to take the LA Metro. Hopefully it drops me off somewhere within reach of this parade. But again, I got to look at a map. I'm coming from Culver City area where I got the Metro line right there, and it drops me off near Crypto. So I got to figure that out. But yes, I'm all in. Like you said, I'm on paternity leave. Couldn't come at a better time. So I will definitely be at this parade. And not to flex, but this has been kind of a good year for me. I got a puppy who watched the Korea games. And I remember me and Jake going live after the first Korea game. That's all the way back in March. Clover and me and Jake were watching the game, doing the live stream. Then my daughter is born in the midst of the NLCS, a little unexpectedly because her due date was actually tomorrow. She decides to be born just in time, I guess, to see the Dodgers win the 2024 World Series. So some awesome shit right there. But yeah, we're going to figure out how to coordinate this in the Discord feed. We're going to try to all go, I guess. And we'll figure it out. I've never been to a parade either. Like Jake said, when the Rams won the Super Bowl, I didn't go to that. Didn't go to any Lakers parades. And obviously in 2020, there was no Dodgers World Series parade. So this is a first for me as well.
Yeah. Got to figure it out. Maybe we'll coordinate together, Kevin.
Yes. Dennis Gonzalez with the super chat. Thank you so much, Dennis. You mean a lot to us. You are one of our most loyal listeners and a great guy to talk to. So I appreciate having you throughout the season. This World Series was a clash of the Titans, Godzilla versus King Kong, and Godzilla won. I think he got it right because there was some Godzillas. We had Shohei Ohtani and Yoshinobu Yamamoto. And unfortunately, Shohei didn't really get to go off in this World Series because it's clear as day he's hurt and he is battling through something after he got hurt in game 2 with the shoulder subluxation. And I think it's just kind of impressive as a whole that he went out there and played, because I think we're going to find out in a few days from now how severe that injury is. And this just means Shohei Ohtani is going to have to get back to the World Series next year and go off. But year 1, I know Jake said it at the very start of this podcast, in year 1, Shohei Ohtani comes to the Dodgers, and in year 1, he's a World Series champion after the 6 or 7 miserable years that he wasted rotting away in Anaheim. And I hope Artie Moreno was watching this World Series tonight. I really hope so.
Here's the thing. For years, right, in Anaheim, Shohei Ohtani was the only guy in the lineup. Mike Trout was there, but not often. Anthony Rendon, never there. They had to rely solely on him to do everything. And up until the World Series, Shohei Ohtani had been having a pretty decent postseason and had been coming through for the Dodgers. But then he gets hurt, and you could tell that his swing was off. He wasn't making contact like he normally does. He was holding onto his arm and his chest to try and lessen the tension on his arm and all of this stuff. But the difference is that the Dodgers actually have a great team behind him and were able to pick him up when he wasn't producing, i.e. Freddie Freeman, Teoscar Hernandez, Mookie Betts. So that's the big difference right there. The fact that the Dodgers have a team to win the World Series, it's not just going to come down to one player. It's not going to be on the shoulders of one player. It's about the team.
Yeah, this was just a crazy journey for a guy like Shohei Ohtani. And some of these people were a part of the Yankees fanboy media, like John Boy and Michael K, who were throwing out reckless accusations that Shohei Ohtani was like a degenerate gambler with no evidence or no basis at all. And it's only fitting that we come out on top and those guys lose. So you throw out your slander and we prevail. Shohei Ohtani took a number of days, and it felt like all this news and circulation was definitely maybe affecting him a little bit. But after he got that first home run against the Giants on like April 5th or whatever that day was, he turned in one of the most spectacular, unique, one-of-a-kind, once-in-a-lifetime seasons that kind of gets put in the back burner now because of the Dodgers winning the championship. But let's not forget, he stole over 50 stolen bases and 50 home runs.
Yeah, he had an MVP season. He's going to win the MVP. It's pretty unanimous, I think, at this point. So an incredible year. Love having him on the Dodgers. It's unbelievable. I did not expect a World Series title immediately after signing Shohei Ohtani. So this is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping they would win a World Series, but we've gone through so many doom and gloom and heartbreaks. You just can't get your hopes up. And even in the NLDS, we thought it might have been over, but it's done. Shohei Ohtani wins a championship. He joins a very elusive field of being the best athlete in his sport and having a championship to his name. It took LeBron James, 11 or 12 seasons? Maybe it was less. Actually, I think it took about 8 or 9. But regardless, it took LeBron a while. It took Michael Jordan a minute. What are some other examples? It took Clayton Kershaw a while, but regardless, Shohei Ohtani in year 7 or 8 wins a World Series. Year 1 with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, year 1 with the Dodgers. He's a World Series champion.
Year 1 in the majors.
Yep. Freddie Freeman, second World Series, first in the Dodgers with year 3. Mookie Betts is a 3-time World Series champion. Try to find me another slam dunk to make the Hall of Fame right now that has 3 World Series championships to his name. Not even Bryce Harper has 1 championship yet. And here you got Mookie Betts, 3 World Series titles. I've heard some Dodger fans out there saying we should have went with Bryce Harper over Mookie Betts. Well, I'm guessing you guys look like idiots now because Mookie Betts has 3 championships and Bryce Harper has yet to win one. And even the Washington Nationals won one immediately after Bryce Harper left. Shout out to the idiot Yankees fan I talked about a little bit earlier today on the pregame show. Austin Capo Bianco, Austin Kappa asshole. You lose, buddy. You were banned from Yankee Stadium. I don't know if you're going to get a lifetime ban, but not only were you kicked out and weren't able to attend today, you get to watch your Yankees lose, and you didn't get to see it in person.
Yeah, that fan was he sucked, and the fact that the fact that they glorified him like they did, and that ESPN article that came out was just like such a puff piece, and everybody was laughing at what he did and his buddy. And I get it, right? Like there's a fly ball that comes near you, you want to be able to swipe it out of the fielder's hands and all of that, but Mookie Betts had already caught the ball. So what are you doing? And then you're grabbing his wrist and all that. It was just kind of disgusting. And I'm glad that they didn't allow those guys back in. And I think that they gave it to some, I wasn't fully paying attention at the time, but I believe it was a special kid that got those tickets for today.
Like a cancer.
Yeah. I think he was a cancer survivor. So cool thing that they did there.
Yes. Love that. Dennis Gonzalez, Dodgers are definitely signing Kiké Hernandez to another contract, right?
I said it the last time that they let Kiké go when he went to the Red Sox. I was disappointed that they let him go, and they should never let him go again. And I believe that to be true now. I don't know how you can. Who cares? Who cares what he does during the regular season? He's not going to start for you, and he never really does play that well in the regular season. He does come up with some clutch moments that he'll inevitably have. But the reason that they got him is for what Dave Roberts said, to win 11 games in October. And that's exactly what they did. He hit again a massive postseason. He was on base all the time. He was huge in this game tonight, getting on base, getting hits, scoring runs. He's an incredible asset to have. And I can't see why they wouldn't bring him back.
Yeah. So a couple thoughts on that. First of all, can't forget in the Game 5 NLDS, he was the only Dodger for a while that hit a home run off Yu Darvish, and that solo run stood for a while and was the difference in the game. And then he had an 808 OPS throughout the entirety of the postseason. The first time he left the Dodgers was simply because he wanted to be an everyday starter, and the Red Sox were willing to give him that shot. At this point, he's pretty established in his major league career. He knows what he is, and he's a utility bench piece. And so I think as long as the Dodgers want him back, and I'd be surprised if they didn't want him back, he's a slam dunk to be re-signed, and he's not going to command a lot of money. So they're going to bring him back. He'll be on the bench, and you can expect Kiké Hernandez to be a Los Angeles Dodger in 2025. I don't know how many more minutes you got left, Jake. Want to be sensitive to your time. So if you got anything else you want to throw out there, you can let me know. But J-Rex Vids, in this lineup, do you think the Dodgers can do it again next year? Who do you think they add up to?
You have to give the edge to the Dodgers again, but I think that the Padres, the Diamondbacks are going to be much better next year. So the NL West is going to be another battle to the end. But I think if they keep most of this roster intact, they re-sign Teoscar Hernandez, they're able to keep Treinen, they're able to keep Kiké and kind of keep some of this core intact, they're going to be able to make another postseason run. Not to mention, there's a ton of other free agents out there that they're going to get. They're going to stock up on pitching again because they just have to. There's too many injuries on this roster to not bolster that starting rotation and the bullpen, to be honest.
Yes. Yeah, I think they'll run it back with a pretty similar group of bunch. Can't tell you yet what moves they'll do, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Dodgers try to pursue a shortstop in the offseason. Maybe that's the one position they decide to bolster up on. And definitely they're going to address the starting pitching. So we'll get to the final chat questions here and then our final thoughts, I guess. And that's a wrap for the 2024 World Series title run. So Moose 1032 saying Yohan Ramirez gets a World Series ring. I guess so. he
Oh, he definitely does.
he pitched.
So does Miguel Vargas, by the way.
Send one to Miguel Vargas. Send one to Johan Ramirez. Who else sucked? But yeah, there. Oh, Kevin Biggio, you can get a World Series ring. Nick Ahmed.
Ahmed Rosario, maybe.
Ahmed Rosario, maybe. I don't know if he was there long enough. Yeah, Nick Ahmed, you're gonna get a ring. So congrats to everyone that got DFA'd and traded along the way. We'll make sure you get sent your World Series ring so you can be reminded that.
Oh, you know who's gonna get a World Series ring that I'm kind of happy about is Ryan Yarbrough.
There's another one. So you can you guys will expect your World Series rings in the mail shortly, and you can be reminded like you pitched on this team or you hit for this team, but you were cut along the way. Jason Hayward, people are mentioning. Yep, Jason Hayward, you get a ring. Another casualty. So we got a lot of casualties out there. So you were a part of the team, but you weren't good enough to play on the postseason roster. So do whatever you want to do with that ring. Congratulations to all the guys that we lost in this title pursuit. Question for Jake from Low 17s. What are you drinking?
Modelo.
There you go. The Dave Roberts special right there.
Yeah.
Will Lux be on this team next year? I am being specifically added at. If I was a betting man, I would say no. But we'll talk plenty about that another time. Okay, so I think that's going to conclude everything in the chat. Jake, go ahead and cap it off. Give me your final thoughts and your takeaways from this entire postseason, and we'll kind of just wrap it up here.
Yeah, this was one of the greatest postseason runs I've ever been a part of, witnessing. It was a remarkable season that was riddled. The team was riddled with injuries in terms of starting pitching throughout the entire year. There were off the field issues, Ohtani and the whole, Ippei Mitsuhara scandal, Freddie Freeman dealing with his son off the field. I mean, just you name it. There were so many distractions, so many expectations of this team. And then they had one of the toughest paths to a World Series title that I can remember in recent memory. Going through the best teams in baseball to capture their 8th World Series title, a full season title. I think that's something of note that we've been wanting our entire lives, because of course we view the 2020 title as something special because it was the first title we got to experience, but it was in Texas. It was a 60-game season. We were clamoring for baseball at the time during the pandemic. So it was something, and it did mean something. And it certainly meant something to those players. So that we're not taking anything away from that. But I think witnessing the first ever full season World Series title is just so sweet. It's been something that we've been waiting for our entire lives, like I said. And it's a childhood dream come true, and it's an incredible feeling tonight. So Dodgers fans should be celebrating.
Yeah, so I just want to say it took me about 27 or 28 years to witness my first World Series championship, and the Dodgers freaking did it in 2020. This is now the second World Series title that we get to witness in our lifetimes, and it feels even sweeter, legitimizes that we are a legit franchise, and just adds more emphasis that this team is not someone to fuck with. So we got 2020, 2024, we're going to get a parade after some of the bullshit years we saw in 2017, 2008 and 9 against the Phillies. We are now the franchise you don't want to fuck with. 2 World Series titles. Find me another team that's doing what we're doing. Shout out to Mookie Betts. It's confirmed from MLB on Fox. Mookie Betts is the only active position player to win 3 World Series championships. So all the Mookie Betts haters, you can just suck it. I'm seeing a Padres super blogger who hosts the Hog Watch. He says, in all seriousness, the Dodgers are missing half their team and they won the World Series. If they are healthy, there will be no parity in baseball. So that just adds to, and I agree, this just adds to the impressive accomplishments that the Dodgers did. We didn't have Glasnow. We didn't have Stone. No Kershaw. Evan Phillips couldn't pitch in this World Series, and Emmett Sheehan wasn't available. and then Freddie Freeman playing on a bum ankle, Shohei Ohtani getting hurt at the very tail end. We are 2024 World Series champions. That's it. What else is there to say? We are on top. We are the best in baseball, and ain't nobody going to be able to take that away from us. Back to you, Jake.
Absolutely. This is a sweet night. And yeah, this is just I love it. This is exactly why you watch baseball. It's why you watch a full 162. You follow this team, you live and die with this team. And yeah, this is the greatest feeling of all time as a fan.
Thank you guys for listening to the Incline Dodgers podcast. For those of you that joined us at the very start of this season, appreciate all you guys. Hit that subscribe button if you're listening on the audio feed. We'll definitely be back for lots of off-season content. The season ends this, or I should say, we end on top right now, but that doesn't mean the content doesn't keep coming. We are World Series champions, so we'll bask in this glory for a few days, and then we'll be back with who knows what hot takes and start to yell at each other again as we get into off-season and recap mode. I'll start to get the Incline Awards ballot together, because finally we have an Incline Awards where the Dodgers win a fucking World Series in year 4, I think, of this thing. And I'm dropping right now on the Twitter link. Get that Yoshinobu Yamamoto bobblehead. We're going to announce the winner in a few days. I said that we would conclude it after the Dodgers completed the World Series. So tomorrow will probably be the deadline. Mention Yamamoto in the comments and you'll get 3 more entries. I think this is a good place to peace out. Go Los Angeles Dodgers, World Series champions 2024.